you on December 16th. Before we get into our analysis, we want to get into our disclaimer real quick to remind you that this webinar is for illustrative purposes only. All right, and with that, we're going to jump onto our live screen real quick. We have our Forex-Trading-Unlocked.com workstation page. You can see at the top of our menu bar, if you hit workstation, this will bring you to this page. And let's see, we have numbers coming out today. So let's see, we have PMI that came out. Then we have bean oil stocks for those commodity traders out there. But it looks like more numbers are really coming out tomorrow, actually, starting out with car registrations in Germany, which, believe it or not, actually are an industrial number that means something. So the euro could get a little buzz off of that one. You know, they're trying to pressure new highs. Obviously, we're coming off the aftermath of the elections in the UK as well. We have employment in the UK. Let's see, Eurostat trade. Housing starts tomorrow, and building permits and industrial production also in the US. So we do have some good numbers coming out tomorrow. All right, let's see. So we have the first phase of a trade deal possibly happening between the U.S. and China. That is, well, we'll see what that remains to be seen. We'll see what happens with that. The good thing is we have some clarity with pound direction probably coming on after today. Got to remember that the election was Friday. We have overnight trade and first day absorbing what's going on. Now the euro-U.S. dollar is showing a little bit of strength today. They made a nice higher move high rather, excuse me, on Friday. And here's something to take a look at also. This is very key. So we're going to put a horizontal ray. This has been a high that we've been watching for a while. It's going to be our directional pivot. You can see that the market spiked above it yesterday, on Friday, on the last day's trading, and now it is trying to make a run for that level again. So the key for direction is the 111.76 area. Now remember, it's been in a nice rally phase for a while here, for a couple of weeks. We've gotten through some early holiday sessions. Thanksgiving is over in the U.S. Now we're in the middle of December. We're on a countdown to Christmas week, which is next week, which will affect all the markets globally because of, we'll have a holiday in the U.S. as well as globally for Christmas Day. So don't forget that's coming up. Now we have thinner markets as people go on vacation and start to celebrate the holidays, and holiday hours around the world in different countries are impacted differently and shut down differently. So volumes are going to be skittish. You'll have a lot of algo trading for not pretty much is going to be what's running the markets. So we could have some vacuum moves. So be careful. Be careful with your risk and just expect to have some erroneous swings happening during that period, especially if you're in the futures and equities markets. The currencies, they're still going to be rather thin, but they will be probably more liquid than those other markets. All right, so that being said, we have the euro-US dollar on a bit of a bull path. Now let's see what the British pound US dollar is doing. So they've been trading now for since early this morning, and here, look at that, how on Friday they had made a nice higher move high on the 13th, Friday the 13th, spiking high all the way up to above that 134 level. This is pretty significant because when we had this breakout, we were looking for it to get to this 132 to 133 even area, and it just blew through it. And now it's staying still nicely, even though it's below the highs from Friday. It's way up there. I mean, we're trading at 133.41. That's above 33.41 is pretty strong when you consider that back in September, when this rally started, this was on September 2nd, sorry, September 3rd. So that's in just over 3 months. We've gone from a buck below a buck 20 all the way to a buck 34. That's a pretty significant move for the British pound. Now, this is a market that does have a tendency to have wide ranges and make big moves, but still, considering that Brexit did not happen, that's where we had this whole area here. We had Halloween. This is where Brexit was supposed to occur. And then with these elections, you can see where the support is. Now, there's also some deals going on with the Scots, and this all kind of falls in line. So the pressures for Brexit and sovereignty for the UK are also going to begin to manifest themselves in a very big way over the course of the next couple months, especially as we get into the new year and the first quarter of 2020. Believe it or not, folks, yes, we are almost at 2020. So we're going to look at the Swiss real quick, see what's going on there. Now the U.S. dollar is under pressure, obviously, with the major currency crosses, especially against the pound, over the past couple sessions. The U.S. dollar Swiss is pretty stable, even though it is falling in line with that, but it is not quite as extreme. The nice thing is you can see how we've fallen off parity and rejected. We've been hovering on these newer move lows. So once the dollar gets a nice little correction, possibly over the next somewhere in the next day or so. Remember, there's some economic numbers for the U.S. and we have a U.S. trade deal with China that supposedly may be in its first phase of being completed. Now you got to think that, especially with the impeachment trial going on for the U.S. president, that has begun over the next couple of weeks, and then it goes into January with the new trial in the House. Most likely, I would say that if there's any chance of making a deal with China right now, the president's probably working this out to phase in along the during the impeachment hearings to try and I would say, make himself look much better in America's eyes. I would say, no matter what your political take is, it's probably going to be played in that kind of way. Am I right on that 100%? Who knows? That's just my own theory on how I think that this will go. It just is, besides being Machiavellian and Sun Tzu, it would just make sense to do it that way. If it's going to happen at all, I think that there will be some sort of trade deal that will be reached somewhere between now and the impeachment trial ending in the U.S. in the beginning of next year. That being said, I don't know which way that's going to go for the president. That's not the issue here. What is the issue is what it will do for the U.S. dollar, and as well as us moving forward set the tone for the 2020, which would be interesting because we've obviously been in this trade war with China now for quite some time. Which actually, you know what, we've been winning. So the numbers have proven it. All the doomers and gloomers would say how bad it was and what it was going to do to us. Well, if it was so bad, earnings wouldn't be so strong, and the markets wouldn't be as high as they are. So scoreboard is scoreboard. Doesn't matter what your political take is. The reality is the trade war with China has worked for the U.S. It helped to explode all the countries outside of China in the Southeast Asia, especially, but all throughout Asia. The only countries that have been kind of wavering and a little bit messed up are some of our biggest allies, that ones that people don't normally talk about, like Australia. Who would think that Australia is one that is impacted by something like this? But it is, because they're one of the biggest suppliers of raw commodities to China, but then that's their fault for pretty much only dealing with one country. So they put all their eggs in one basket on a country that's trying to build its own way, try and create its own land bridge all the way to the continent of Australia. Whoa, what's going on here with our computer here? Lost our screen. That's not normal. Okay, sorry about that, folks. I don't know how that happened, but somehow we lost our Google Chrome here. So we have to pull back our website. And sorry about that. We're going to get this happen real fast. We got this. So here we go. This is how you can see how we get to the workstation page now. So we pull up the home page at www.forex-trading-unlocked.com. So at least we got through the European markets, and since we were talking about the Asian markets, let's not forget that. All right, so here we are at our home page. We're going to go click on the workstation page, because this gives us the bigger chart. We could go to the Forex markets and hit each individual market page on its own, but they would be smaller charts with more detailed information about just those markets. But I don't think you want to be reading stuff. You want me to be talking and showing you a chart on direction. Okay, so we are now loading here. Maybe this is what's happening. Sorry, we're on vacation here at Forex Trading Unlocked. We're in Arkansas, doing this in the mountains. So it could be that our stream is having some issues because of where we are at right now. Maybe that's why we lost Google Chrome during that beginning part of our webinar. So here we are. We are loading up the home page. The home page is showing up. Okay, let's just see if we can get the workstation going here. There we go. Yeah, I think it's... Sorry, folks, we're on vacation for Christmas visiting family. But we continue to keep our webinars going over the course of the holidays. But even us, there's not much going on next week. Remember, Christmas and New Year's, we will not be broadcasting or working or in any way, manner, shape, or form able to be contacted. So we will be taking off. All right, here we go. So here was the calendar part. Sorry for this wait, folks, but we are, like I said, I'm not in Chicago, so our broadcasting abilities have been hampered here. Okay, as you can see, the chart is being brought back up. So this will have our euro chart, which remember right now, the euro US dollar bulls are getting a little bit more momentum going again today, especially with the pound staying solidly higher. Now you saw how the US dollar Swiss was only slightly higher as well. So you would have to think that after the move that we've had, especially as of late in the US dollar, that we might get a little bit of a correction once again for the US dollar. So let's see, USD JPY. So let's go to the US dollar JPY. All right, so here we have this market, which look at this. The US dollar, the Dixie is under pressure, and then once again, the US dollar yen, it goes up. Now remember, we are talking about the trade deal as well. This impacts Japan. So right now, what is going on here? Well, I'll tell you what's going on right here. The U.S. dollar trade deal, no matter what, has been helping the Japanese exports, especially with America. Isn't that crazy? So people wonder, like, oh, we've been hurting China and whatever. Well, it doesn't matter what we do to China because they hurt everybody and all their numbers are cooked. But Japan is one of our allies, and no matter what, this trade deal on multiple levels has benefited them. Like I said, it's benefited all the countries surrounding China. So right now, it's a strong dollar for some reason. I think that trend is because of the trade deal still, and until that is completely maximized and finished, I think that the trend will still be a bull. So meaning that the U.S. dollar, again, when one cross is strong versus being weak in all the other majors. So it's weak against the euro, it's weak against the pound, it's weak against the Swiss. But the Swiss is like the yen also. The Swiss has been trying to rally, but it's neutral and it's been hanging below par. Every time it gets to, or excuse me, parity. Every time it gets to parity, it gets rejected, like you've seen recently. But not so with the yen. The yen, it takes a little bit of pressure when the dollar index gets bearish. But then look at this. See how this was on Friday? This boom, boom, Thursday, Friday, and now Monday, it's holding. US dollar strength is in the yen. So basically what it means is when the dollar index sells off severely, that's when you'll get a break like this you'll get a correction in the US dollar yen. But then no matter what, even if the dollar index is still under pressure, but just not severely under pressure, that's when all of a sudden the yen snaps back. So I am still a bull. I mean, right now we have Friday's high. Let's see, we had the high here previously at 109.727. And then here we had a high of 109.707. So we fell just short of this high. We didn't make a higher move high, but we have a higher move low still in place. So as long as this higher move low is still in place, let me put a horizontal line here to give you a little clue as what I'm talking about right here. So as long as this low is still in place, let's get rid of the ads here. We're a bull. We're definitely neutral to higher, even if the dollar index is under pressure. Now, a big sell-off in the dollar index will probably yield a slide. But even still, I would be looking for more of a symmetrical correction like we had from this spot here. Let's see. Let me do a little ellipse here. So if you look at this little area here and have that as one swing high for the long-term bull trend, and then you have this little area here as your little swing low for the bull trend. See what I'm saying here? Let's get rid of this volume, makes it a little easier. So we can see that the steepness of this trend is not very strong, but then once again, the dollar index has been under pressure for the past few months. So it's pretty amazing that while the dollar index is lower, the US dollar yen is higher. So be careful. If this market does severely turn to the downside, that probably means that the other current, there's a correction in the dollar going somehow. That's the only thing that would make a really severe correction in the dollar. But right now, that is not the case. All right, let's look at our AUD USD. Now, the Australian dollar, US dollar has had its moments over the past few months, that's for sure. It's been a bull, as you can see, for the month of December. Now, Friday we spiked a higher move high, and now we're in the middle. So higher move high is still bullish, but as you can see, this is a big run. It wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, let alone just common sense that we would have a correction where the dollar would get a little bit of strength somewhere over the next few sessions between now and Christmas, kind of putting the brakes on this rally. But the trend is your friend, and momentum is definitely very strong against the dollar right now. So if you're short the dollar and long these other currencies, maybe start to look to keep your stops tight. Like for instance, here at a low from Friday, this would be a great stop right now for if you're long. So that being said, let's look at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar real quick. And here we go. We have an upside breakout on this mark. This is a raging bull. Look at how that flew up into Friday and then settled a little slower. Now we're above yes on Friday's session. So this momentum, this is a rager without a doubt. So this was a bull when, like, especially the Aussie couldn't even begin to. So excuse me for that trade zone, especially with what's going on right now. Very bullish New Zealand dollar. I would not try to get in front of this freight train. You can look for opportunities to sell, but I would look for a setup, like a major swing setup to sell before I would try and fade this market. If you're long, taking profits and starting to raise your risk or cut your risk and raise your stops, it's a different story. But yes, I would be very careful about shorting this market. So one last little look at something while we finish out this webinar. We have no trading signals right now. We're just going with the momentum. Oh, but we do have this little thing right here on the dollar index. This is a pattern that is forming that we'll have to see as of Friday. So as you can see, the Dixie made newer move lows, being very bearish going into Friday, Thursday rather, but Friday. Then we had this turnaround on December 13th. Now it's kind of ironic that the dollar index had a rally like this while the pound had rallied and still settled up. So did the euro. So what does that mean? That means that the dollar has crushed all the little currencies around the globe. Whereas the few majors and the lesser major crosses, they actually did rally. So whereas all the other baskets, they fell against the dollar. So this means that we might be setting up for a nice little correction, like I said, especially with this. This is a high probable Japanese candlestick pattern right here, but we're not going to talk about that because that's a whole nother video. But if you'd like to learn about what that is, now that would be a temporary short-term buy signal, meaning we might get a little correction back up to this 97.5, maybe even 98 even, and being in this neutral territory before we start to fall under pressure again. So we'll see how that manifests. And like I said, if you want to learn about high probable Japanese candlestick patterns, there's a way you can do that. And you can do that by reading the book, High Probable Japanese Candlestick Patterns, available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle versions. And through it, you can utilize the best buy and sell patterns used for over 400 years. Give yourself a competitive edge against the markets and the Forex markets, stock markets, the futures markets, options markets, you name it, they work in all markets. You just have to know how to apply them. And through this book, you can learn that. Most people that educate people on candlesticks don't teach them the real way, which is the Asian way, and how to really use these patterns for to profit off of. Now, one of the reasons why they fail for the most part is explained in this book. And for those of you that say Japanese candlestick patterns don't work, I would say 9 out of 10 of you probably try to implement it on an intraday basis, which right off the bat, there's your biggest failure. So with that being said, my name is Teddy Keckstedt from Forex Trading Unlocked. Please check us out every day at www.forex-trading-unlocked.com, and like, follow, and share us on our social media pages. And if you would, we really appreciate you subscribing.